sunny day, cold but sunny day here in Kansas. And today I'm going to be working on my pass-through storage so I can make room for some other projects that I'm working on. Primarily the water filter and updating the water system. So the current configuration in the pass-through storage on my 2017 Cyclone has the wall where all of the utilities are behind. It goes at an angle, so I've looked in there and there's room to move that wall back about 6 inches, and it'll go. It'll provide more space. There will be a little bit more of that toilet drain tube hanging down, but it'll give us a little bit more space to put stuff in storage. And then I'll make the door that opens up where I want to put the water filters. So there's the storage compartment with the panels removed. You can see the wiring for a couple of outlets and the cable, the vent, and an access panel on this first panel. And then on the second panel, our vacuum system is attached to that panel. And then over there on the far wall, hopefully this will show, is the water panel that I'm going to replace, and where the bypass valve is on that panel. My intent is to make two door put these panels on hinges, add about 6 inches of space here along the wall. You can see the silver box there. That's the transfer switch. I already moved that over 4 inches or so. That'll allow me to move the wall. And then back here you can see the pump. I moved it. The water pump was crowding the transfer switch. The transfer switch was crowding the back of the water heater, which made it so that the hose coming out of the back of the water heater was kinked. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more hot water flow out of this as well. Here is the adjusted frame for the back wall of our storage area. I increased the size of the opening on the far side of the drain pipe to make room for the water filters and have access to the relocated water pump. Beyond that, I will add a second hinged panel to access the back side of the Universal Distribution Center, water valve connections, and the transfer switch. By moving this frame, I added about 5 inches of floor space across the width of the storage area, or about 3.5 square feet. It's so cold I'm having a hard time keeping cameras going with the batteries. Getting too cold. But here's the interior compartment. I got the panels back on the wall. I got the door hinged so that I can open and close that for the water filters. And someone's going to say, oh, you put those hinges on the wrong way. No, I didn't. I put them on the way I wanted. It'll provide less of a gap, and I didn't have to mortise anything for the hinges, so that'll work. And then we'll go around the other side. You can see it's a really nice day. It is really cold though. It's about 15 degrees. And so it might be kind of hard to see because there's the water filters mounted on the door. And I can reach in to change those filters and close that. Now I'm going to tackle the new water panel. It's another part of the multi-step process I'm doing today to replace portions of my water system and to upgrade my water filter system. This is the Anderson WH BSD valve. The reason I'm upgrading to this is, the current one I have is an Anderson 200 RV, and this is the 200 RV WH BSD. This valve has the ability to bypass the water heater, sanitize the tank, which my other valve doesn't have the function to do either of those processes. And in addition to being able to sanitize the tank, and what that means is that I can draw water from an unpressurized source into the tank to sanitize it. And when we boondock, we have a 90-gallon fabric bladder that we can put in the bed of our truck, take to a water source, fill it up with potable water, and then bring it back to the trailer. And this will allow me to upload that, or to pump that using the pump on the trailer into the tank. And so that was the reason I chose this valve, and I'll leave it a little bit better description of the valve and where I purchased it in the description of the video. And as you can see, this has two separate handles, or valves. One to select whether you want to have normal operations, if you're going to bypass or drain the water heater, and then if you want to sanitize the tank or upload water using your onboard pump to the tank. And then my current RV200, I do have a hot water heater bypass valve, but it's remotely located in another part of the trailer, and so it's not that handy, and it's kind of in the way for opening and closing the access. And then this has also the ability, this four-way valve is the same as all the other Anderson 200 four-way valves, that you can use it for the city, for the fixtures, city to fill the tank, or pressurized water really for the fixtures for the tank, your pump, and then to sanitize or winterize your fixtures. So I'll be installing this. There's a little bit of prep work that I have to do, the way the back of the valve looks. You have two ports that go to the tank, and I'll post a description of this, a picture of it from a diagram of the flow where it goes. Then this is the input from the fill valve, and this fill check valve is actually going to go to my water filter system first, through the water filter system, through my pressure regulator, and then back into the valve. And then it has the other various fittings to go to the hot water heater, and from the hot water heater and whatnot. But I'll post that, and then there's a vent for venting the tank. The first thing I'm going to do is remove all the hoses for the hot water heater bypass, and then I'll disconnect the old panel, remove the old panel. I'm going to probably have to move this outdoor faucet, so they call it an outdoor shower, but it's an outdoor faucet. I might have to move that down to make room for the new panel. So the new panel will go here, and it's a little bit bigger than this one, and then this will have to move down, and some of these other things will have to move down, like the black tank wash system and the pump on off switch might have to move down. Alright, this is the back of the Anderson RV 200 WH BDS panel, and what I did, because the two tank fittings have to be connected, instead of connecting them with a T and using two hoses, I used PEX fittings, and went from input there, put the T here where I'll connect the hose that goes to the tank, and then also connected the tank here using some small pieces of PEX, and then the PEX band clamps. And And then in addition to connecting the two tank fittings with PEX, I also repurposed this 1/2-inch nipple. This came from the old hot water heater bypass valve, and this T-fitting came from where that bypass valve connected into the hot and cold, and I repurposed that. Now the panel should be ready to go on. Here's the universal distribution panel with the new valve in place. I had to move the outside faucet, or outside shower as they call it on the documentation. I had to move that down about an inch, maybe a little more than an inch. I had to relocate the pump switch right here, and the black tank clean out, or the black tank flush system valve down. This, I used a 1-inch hole saw to cut a hole down. This is how the factory did it. It looks like they used a drill bit and just moved the drill bit around until it cut a hole. This was the cutout for the switch. It really only needs to be about half that size. And I used a stepped drill bit, and then used the jigsaw on the back side to cut between the two holes. And you could have just drilled 3 holes and then moved the drill up and down a little bit to make the slot for the back of the switch. For the Anderson valve, I used the outside of the old 4-way valve, and you can see where my Sharpie made marks on it. And that made a perfect template for the width, and then I had to move it down another inch from there to get the right size for the new valve. And then from there, from the bottom of the new valve plate, cover plate, I moved the faucet down, and I had to cut a little bit more than an inch out to do that. And to get that cut, I just used a jigsaw to cut that out so that it was rounded corners and everything fit nice. To finish this off and cover the holes, since I couldn't find any melamine, I used white flex tape. Here's the back of the new water panel with everything connected. I made PEX tubing from the input check valve over to this little stud wall to stub in for the connection to the water filter, and then from the water filter, PEX tubing connection that goes over as an input to the valve, to the 4-way. Phase 3 of this project is to assemble the 2 water filter housings and connect them together. Add the fittings for a pressure gauge at the inlet and install a pressure regulator to the outlet. I'm using the OmniFilter OB1 canister filter for 3/4 inch fittings because they have a built-in mounting bracket on the head, pressure relief valves on each canister. They're relatively inexpensive at less than $20 each on Amazon. I use string type filters, 5-micron sediment filter in the first housing and a less than 1 micron carbon block filter in the second housing that removes chemicals and bad taste. I'll leave a link to the canisters, filters, and all the parts that I used in the description, as well as a PDF you can download with the instructions on my website, freebirdrv.com. To start, I applied Teflon tape to all the male threads except the hose side of the 3/4 inch male by male hose hex nipple that connects to the pressure regulator. The 2 1/2-inch male hex nipples that connect to the water panel check valve, to the input, and from the output of the filters to the fill valve. These connections are for hoses that have washers and don't need thread sealant. You could also use a liquid thread sealant and do this as you go. I had Teflon tape, so that's what I used. First, you connect the 2 filter canister heads together with the 3/4 inch male by 2 inch hex nipple. Make sure the flow arrows are facing in the same direction. Connect the 3/4 inch male by 1/2 inch male hex nipple to the input side of the canister heads. Connect the 1/2 inch T to the input side, 1/2 inch male hex nipple. Thread in the 1/2 inch male by 1/4 inch female bushing in the top of the T-fitting. That's for the pressure gauge. Attach the pressure gauge. Thread in and tighten the 1/2 inch male hex nipple to the input side of the T-fitting. Then on the other side, you're going to thread in and tighten the 3/4 inch male by 1/2 inch male hose. This fitting, it's a hex nipple that goes to the outside of the canister assembly, and it's for attaching the pressure regulator. I had to replace the 1/2 inch male to 3/4 inch male hose that I had in my pressure regulator with a 1/2 inch male pipe hex nipple. Then you attach the pressure regulator, and after that use the screws that are included with the canister and hang your assembly in your desired location. Connect the hoses, turn on the water, and you're done. The OmniFilter instructions do recommend that you run about 15 gallons of water through the system to flush it before you use it. Well, that's it for this project. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. Also, please join us for our next adventure and hit that subscribe button